Our test was to explore the difference in detail retention and colour rendition between digital, film stock and DFD footage. It's generally accepted that film is better at managing highlight preservation but is outperformed by digital in low light situations. Our goal was to test this theory and see what effect, if any, the DFD process had on the outcome.
We designed our lighting to truly test each camera's dynamic range. We logged exposure stops over and under, noting ambient and key light values. Each member of the crew assumed their roles quickly and worked as a tight unit. Aidan, our DOP, effectively translated his vision among the rest of the group. The camera team maintained exposure consistency across both formats, while Best Boy and Electric ensured the lighting was placed accordingly to achieve a naturally lit look. They also monitored the lighting output meticulously between each take. Grip focused on applying scrims and helping out with the Electric team. The first AC would then measure the new light and exposure reading between each take. Good communication was essential across apartments because of this. Originally, we planned to do all the takes with a dolly shot and build a single double-mounted rig for both the Arri and the Lumix. This was so we could have the cameras capture the same thing and be as close as possible to each other with the framing. But after further research, we would have spent too much time lighting the entire set, so we decided to change it and keep it as a still shot, which also resorted to using two separate tripods as we couldn't build a rig that supported both cameras.
The first thing I noticed is a difference in colour temperature in the ungraded footage exposed for T4. The 200T film stock naturally renders the warm key light and the cold blue fill very accurately. In the digital footage, there is a vague sense that the two lights are different temperatures, but it's not as noticeable. To replicate this with the digital footage, I transformed the colour space to Rec 709 and the gamma to Cineon film log so that I could apply a Kodak 2383 D60 LUT, which brings them closer together. Please bear in mind I'm grading these shots to test the theory and not to make them look good. With the footage graded to a similar colour space, it's easier to analyse with our theory in mind. First, looking at the shots correctly exposed for T4, we can see that both the film and digital footage are losing information in the darker parts of the frame. Trying to bring this information back with the film footage isn't possible. We can brighten the darker areas, but the information is lost. With digital, we can take advantage of the fact that the data is still recorded. We can raise the shadows in a number of ways, increasing the lift wheel or the shadow slider, or we can adjust the exposure all the way up to 1000 ISO to recover the detail from the shadows and bring the highlights back down to compensate. Interestingly, with the DFD footage we are also able to bring back the shadow detail. While we can't affect the ISO directly, we're able to lift the shadows and show most of the finer details in the darker areas. For the shots exposed to 2 stops under T4, there isn't much more to notice other than a compounding of the same issues we found in the correctly exposed shots. But in the shots exposed 2 stops over, we actually get the cleanest looking results. The digital footage has such little noise that noise reduction isn't required for a clean image. It renders the colours faithfully and nearly all of the shadow detail can be recovered. The DFD footage has similar results but requires much less tweaking to control the highlights and saturate the colours in the scene. We also get our best result out of the film shots we have, however in the darkest areas of the scene we still can't get a lot of the shadow detail back, even if we boost the shadows as high as they can go. Moving on to the shots exposed 4 stops over T4, we start running into the opposite problems. We're losing highlight detail and colours are being affected. On both film and digital, the skin tone of the actor has shifted, causing him to look significantly paler. In the digital, we're losing most of the detail in the t-shirt worn by a clapper. The colours are also completely washed out. In the film footage, the highlights are blooming, but we can still make out most of the detail and the colours are mostly preserved, looking a little faded but still natural. Once again, we can recover a lot of this detail in digital by lowering the ISO and massively reducing the gain in highlights. The shot of our actor is still intact and usable, but it is harder to bring back the temperature of the lights we used on set without making the rest of the colour too saturated. In the DFD footage we can also recover the detail, and surprisingly it's much easier to bring back the colour temperature, needing a much lower saturation boost than the digital. Though I wasn't able to naturalise the skin tone, but this is more likely due to a lack of colour grading knowledge. Finally, the shots exposed 4 stops under T4. On the film stock, any attempt at recovery only gives you dark shadows with a weird blue static and no detail being recovered at all. The DFD footage appears murky and also fails at recovering any meaningful shadow detail, but preserves the most natural looking colours. The digital footage performed best in this setup. With heavy manipulation and noise reduction, I was able to create a relatively clean and usable image. However, the colours around our actor are washed out, the image looks fairly flat, and we're also getting chromatic aberration between the newspaper and the radiator. In conclusion, it appears that the theory stands. Once details are underexposed on film, it seems almost impossible to get them back through digital colour grading. This may be possible with lab processors. Conversely, with digital, blown out highlights can be brought back down, but the detail is lost and it's always clear in the final image that the highlight is overexposed. While digital can recover much darker shadows than film, it requires a lot of post-processing to clean the image and remove unwanted noise. However, the most interesting part for me is the DFD footage. It seems that the DFD process gives digital footage some of the benefits of film in how it treats colour and softens harsh light, without taking too much away from its ability to maintain shadow detail. If I have the opportunity, and the money, to use this process in my own films, I definitely will.
Looking ahead, each department identified improvements and what they would do next time. The camera department stated that they would have shot with a higher resolution, as that would preserve more fine details for transfer. For grip, a more precise control over practical light spill, possibly with more flags or a tighter lighting grid, while dimmers played a key role in giving us flexibility during the test. Future refinements we'd make within the electric department could be refined lighting shaping tools such as egg crates, barn door extenders, and grid cloths, allowing for greater precision with light fall off. We hope this test communicates what our findings were and not just what we did, but why we did it. By examining the interplay of film and digital technologies under stress, we can make informed creative choices, whether we're chasing a nostalgic look or the clean precision of modern workflows.